I still remember the smell of coffee and old paperwork that filled the precinct that morning in South Boston. It was late March, and the winter cold was finally starting to loosen its grip on the city. I'd been with the Boston Police Department for 8 years, working my way up from patrol officer to detective in the narcotics unit. That particular morning felt different, though. Captain Rodriguez had called me into his office right after roll call, and everyone knew what that meant. The promotion I'd been working toward for 3 years was finally happening. I walked through the bullpen, past desks cluttered with case files and half-empty coffee cups, feeling the weight of my colleagues' eyes on me. Some nodded encouragingly. Others, the ones who'd been passed over, looked away. I didn't blame them. This job teaches you that success always comes with a shadow of someone else's disappointment. "Detective Santiago," Rodriguez said as I entered his office. He was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s, with gray temples and the kind of face that had seen too much, but somehow still believed in the work. "Close the door and have a seat." My heart was hammering. Through his window, I could see the Dorchester neighborhood sprawling below us, the triple-deckers and corner stores that made up the fabric of this city I'd sworn to protect. I'd grown up in those streets, just a few blocks from here, the daughter of a single mother who worked double shifts at Mass General Hospital to keep us afloat. Or so I'd always believed. "Maria, you've been with us for 8 years now," Rodriguez continued, shuffling papers on his desk. "Your record is exceptional. Your work on the Mendez case last year was outstanding, and your clearance rate is among the highest in the department." I sat up straighter, trying to keep my expression professional, even though I wanted to smile. "We're forming a new organized crime task force," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Interstate operation, federal cooperation, the whole 9 yards. We're going after the trafficking networks that have been flooding Dorchester and Roxbury with heroin and fentanyl. It's big, Maria. Real big." "I'm listening, sir," I managed to say. "I want you to lead it. You'd be promoted to detective sergeant, heading a team of 6 investigators. It's the opportunity you've been working for." I couldn't hold back the smile anymore. "Sir, thank you. I won't let you down. I know you won't. We'll make it official next week. Get your affairs in order, because once this starts, it's going to consume your life for a while." I left his office feeling like I was floating. My partner, Tommy Chen, a wisecracking veteran from Quincy who'd been with me through countless long nights and dangerous raids, grabbed my shoulder as I passed his desk. "So, don't leave me hanging, Santiago." "I got it," I whispered, unable to contain my grin. "I'm leading the new task force." Tommy whooped and pulled me into a bear hug, drawing attention from half the precinct. "That's my partner. I knew you'd get it." The rest of that day passed in a blur of congratulations and excitement. I worked through lunch, tying up loose ends on current cases, already mentally preparing for the massive responsibility ahead. It wasn't until I was driving home to my apartment in Brighton, listening to the radio announce another nor'easter heading our way, that I allowed myself to really feel it. Pride. Relief. The validation that all those late nights, all those times I'd chosen the job over relationships, over comfort, over everything else, had been worth it. My phone rang just as I was pulling into my parking spot. "Mom." I smiled and answered. "Hey, Ma, you'll never guess what happened today." "Maria." Her voice was different, small, fragile in a way I'd never heard before. "I need you to come over. Right now. It's important." The pride drained out of me like water through a sieve. "What's wrong? Are you okay? Just come, please. I can't talk about this over the phone." She hung up before I could ask anything else. I sat in my car for a moment, staring at my phone, feeling the first cold tendrils of dread wrap around my chest. My mother, Patricia Santiago, was not a woman who asked for help. She was 62 years old, sharp as a tack, and as independent as they come. For her to sound like that. I turned the car around and headed toward Dorchester, where she still lived in the same 2-bedroom apartment we'd shared throughout my childhood. The streets were familiar, every corner holding a memory. The bodega where I'd bought candy with quarters I'd saved. The park where I'd played basketball with neighborhood kids. The church where Mom had dragged me every Sunday, rain or shine. Her building was a faded yellow triple-decker on a quiet street lined with bare maple trees. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my detective's instincts already running through possibilities. Medical emergency, financial trouble, someone threatening her. I was prepared for anything, except what I found. Mom opened the door before I could knock. She looked smaller than I remembered, wrapped in an old cardigan despite the apartment's stuffy heat. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. "Maria, baby, come in." She pulled me into a hug that lasted too long, her body trembling against mine. "Mom, you're scaring me. What's going on?" She led me to the couch, the same floral-patterned couch we'd had since I was 10. The apartment smelled like the lavender air freshener she always used, mixed with something else. Something medical. Antiseptic. "I went to the doctor last week," she began, her hands twisting in her lap. "I'd been having these symptoms. Fatigue, pain, weight loss. I thought it was just getting older, you know? But Dr. Chen insisted I get some tests done." Dr. Chen, her longtime physician at the community health center, a respected man, been practicing in the neighborhood for 30 years. "What kind of tests?" I asked, my cop brain kicking in even as my daughter's heart started breaking. "Blood work, imaging, biopsy?" She paused, and I watched a tear slide down her cheek. "Maria, they found something. They're calling it a rare neurological condition. Progressive, degenerative." The words hit me like physical blows. "What does that mean? What exactly did they say?" "It's called variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. There's no cure, honey. It's terminal. They're saying I have maybe 2 years, probably less, and as it progresses, I'm going to need full-time care. I won't be able to live alone, won't be able to work, won't be able to do anything for myself eventually." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. CJD. I'd heard of it vaguely. Something about prions, about the brain basically destroying itself. Rare, fatal, horrible. "No," I heard myself say. "No, that can't be right. You're healthy. You're strong. There has to be a mistake. I've seen 3 specialists, Maria. They all confirmed it. The symptoms are going to get worse quickly. Memory loss, motor control problems, seizures. I'm going to forget who you are eventually. I'm going to forget who I am." She broke down then, sobbing into her hands, and I held her, feeling my own tears start to fall. My mother. My strong, indomitable mother who'd raised me alone, who'd never missed a school play or a track meet, who'd taught me to be tough and compassionate in equal measure. The thought of her fading away, of losing herself piece by piece, was unbearable. "We'll fight this," I said, even though I knew the words were hollow. "We'll find the best doctors, try experimental treatments, whatever it takes. There's nothing to try, baby. This disease, it's a death sentence, and I need help. I can't do this alone. I know you just got that promotion you've been waiting for, but—" "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't even think about that. You're my mother. Nothing is more important than you." Even as I said it, I felt something inside me crumble. The task force, the promotion, everything I'd worked for. But how could any of that matter if my mother was dying? "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Maria. I know what this means for your career, but I need you. I can't ask anyone else. There's no one else." That was true. Mom had no siblings, no close friends she could lean on. Her parents had passed when I was young. It had always been just the 2 of us against the world. "Don't apologize," I said firmly, even as my heart shattered. "I'll take care of you. Whatever you need, however long it takes. I'm here." The next week passed in a nightmarish haze. I went to Rodriguez's office and told him I couldn't take the promotion. The words felt like glass in my throat. He was understanding, sympathetic even, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. The position would go to someone else. The opportunity I'd spent years building toward, gone. I submitted a request for extended personal leave. The department granted it immediately given the circumstances, but I knew what it meant. In a job like this, once you step away, getting back to where you were is nearly impossible. Cases move on, teams change, new people rise up to fill the gaps you leave behind. Tommy took me out for drinks the night before my leave started. We sat in a dive bar in Southie, nursing beers and not saying much. Finally, he spoke. "This is bullshit, Maria. You should be celebrating right now, not throwing away your career." "She's dying, Tommy. What am I supposed to do?" I know. I'm sorry. It's just, you worked so damn hard for this." "Yeah, well," Sometimes life doesn't care about your plans. I moved into my mother's apartment the following weekend. My landlord wasn't happy about me breaking my lease, but he understood. I packed up my life in Brighton, 8 years of living alone, of building independence, into boxes that I stacked in her spare room. The room that had been mine as a teenager, still decorated with faded posters and trophies from high school track. The first few weeks, I kept telling myself I was doing the right thing. Mom's symptoms seemed mild at first. Some forgetfulness, a bit of weakness in her hands. She could still do most things for herself. I spent my days taking her to doctor appointments, researching CJD online until my eyes burned, and trying to hold on to some piece of who I'd been before all this happened. But as April turned to May, something started to bother me. Little things that didn't quite add up. Mom's appointments were always with Dr. Chen, always at times when the office was closing, always in private rooms where I wasn't invited. The medical bills that arrived were vague, lacking the detailed breakdowns I'd expected, and her symptoms seemed inconsistent. Some days she'd claim she couldn't remember basic things, but then I'd catch her watching her favorite TV shows and recalling complex plot points perfectly. Sometimes she'd act weak and shaky, needing help with simple tasks. But then I'd come home unexpectedly and find her moving around just fine. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was looking for problems because I couldn't accept the reality of her illness. That denial was a natural part of grief. My days blurred together. Wake up, help Mom with breakfast, sit with her while she watched TV, prepare lunch, drive her to appointments, come home, make dinner, help her to bed. Repeat. My colleagues from the department called occasionally, but the conversations grew awkward and short. They were moving forward with their lives, their cases, their careers, while I was stuck in this suspended animation of caregiving. I missed the work desperately, missed the adrenaline of a breakthrough in a case, the satisfaction of putting handcuffs on someone who'd hurt people, the camaraderie of the squad room. I checked the department's website obsessively, reading about the progress of the task force I should have been leading. They'd already made 3 major arrests. That should have been me. But every time guilt crept in, I'd look at my mother and remember why I was doing this. She was dying. She needed me. Nothing else mattered. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. By June, Boston was sweltering in an early heat wave, and the apartment felt like an oven despite the air conditioning running constantly. I'd put my entire life on hold, watching my mother deteriorate day by day. Or was she deteriorating? The doubt gnawed at me more and more. One afternoon, I came home early from the grocery store to find Mom on the phone in her bedroom, speaking in a voice that was clear, strong, and completely unlike the weak, confused tone she used with me. "I told you, it's working perfectly," she was saying. "She's not going anywhere. She's mine now, completely under my control, just like she should have been all along." I froze in the hallway, grocery bags still in my hands, my heart stopping mid-beat. "The doctor friend of yours is worth every penny. Those fake medical reports are perfect. No, she doesn't suspect a thing. She's too guilty to question anything. Yes, I'll keep it going as long as I need to. She gave up that promotion, gave up everything. Exactly what she deserved for trying to abandon me." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The words weren't making sense, and yet they made perfect, horrible sense. My mother wasn't sick. She'd never been sick. This entire thing, the diagnosis, the symptoms, the specialists, all of it, was a lie. An elaborate, cruel manipulation designed to trap me, to punish me for daring to have a life and career of my own. The grocery bag slipped from my numb fingers and hit the floor with a crash. Mom's voice cut off abruptly. I heard her footsteps approaching. "Maria? Is that you? I didn't hear you come in." She appeared in the doorway, her face arranged in that familiar mask of weakness and confusion. But now, I could see it for what it was. A performance. A lie. "Who were you talking to?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What? Oh, I was talking to the television, honey. I do that sometimes, you know how it is." She gave a little laugh, fragile and apologetic. The same laugh that had kept me here, kept me sacrificing everything. Something inside me broke. Or maybe it was something that finally, after months of being bent and twisted, snapped back into place. "Cut the bullshit, Mom!" The words came out hard, cold, my cop voice. "I heard you. I heard everything." Her face changed then. Just for a second, the mask slipped, and I saw something in her eyes that made me take a step back. Not confusion, not weakness. Anger, cold, calculating anger. "I don't know what you think you heard. You're not sick," I said, each word deliberate. "There is no disease. You made it all up. You manipulated me into giving up my career, my life, everything, just to keep me under your control." For a long moment, she said nothing. We stood there in the narrow hallway of her apartment, the summer heat pressing down on us, the truth hanging between us like a blade. Then she smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "So what if I did?" she said quietly. "What are you going to do about it? You already quit your precious job. You already gave up your promotion. The damage is done, Maria. You can walk away now if you want, but your career is over. You threw it all away for nothing." The cruelty in her voice was stunning. This woman who'd raised me, who I'd loved and respected my entire life, was a stranger. "Why?" I asked, and I hated how my voice cracked. "Why would you do this to me? Because you were going to leave me." The words burst out of her, raw and vicious. "You were going to get that promotion and become so important, so busy, that you'd forget about me. Just like your father forgot about us. Just like everyone forgets about me. I'm your mother. I gave you everything. You owed me more than some job. I never tried to leave you. I called you every week, visited when I could. I loved you. It wasn't enough," she was shouting now. "It's never enough. You were supposed to stay close, supposed to put me first, but all you cared about was that badge and those criminals and that career. Well, now you don't have any of it. Now you know what it feels like to lose everything." I stared at her, this woman I no longer recognized, and felt something harden in my chest, something that had been soft and vulnerable and daughterly, now turning to steel. "You're right about one thing," I said slowly. "I did give up my career, my promotion, my life. I gave it all up because I loved you and thought you were dying. But you know what? I'm a cop, Mom, a damn good cop. And cops don't give up. We fight, we investigate, we find the truth, and we make things right." "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you just confessed to fraud. Medical fraud, to be specific. Conspiracy to commit fraud. I'm talking about how there must be a paper trail, fake medical reports, payments to whoever this doctor friend is you mentioned. I'm talking about how I'm going to find all of it and expose what you've done." Her face went pale. "You wouldn't. I'm your mother. You stopped being my mother the moment you decided to destroy my life for your own selfish reasons." I turned and walked toward the spare room where I'd been staying, my mind already spinning through the investigation I was about to launch. Behind me, Mom's voice rose to a shriek. "You can't prove anything. I'll deny everything. Who's going to believe you over me?" I stopped at the doorway and looked back at her. "I've built cases on a lot less than what I just heard. And unlike you, I actually know how to do my job." I spent the next 3 hours going through every piece of paper in that apartment, every medical bill, every prescription bottle, every document related to her supposed illness. I photographed everything with my phone, creating a digital evidence file. Mom stayed in her room, silent, probably calling whoever she'd been conspiring with to warn them. Let her. I was going to unravel this whole thing. The next morning, I went to the community health center and requested copies of all of my mother's medical records. The receptionist, who knew me from the neighborhood, seemed confused. "Maria, Dr. Chen retired 2 months ago, moved to Florida. He hasn't seen patients since March." March. Right around the time Mom had supposedly received her diagnosis. "Who's been treating my mother since then?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Well, according to our system, Patricia Santiago hasn't had an appointment here since her annual physical in February. Is everything okay?" I smiled tightly. "Everything's fine. Thanks for checking." Outside, I sat in my car and started making a list. Dr. Chen had retired and moved. Suspicious timing. Mom hadn't actually been to the health center in months. The specialists she'd supposedly seen? I'd need to verify if any of those appointments had actually happened. The medical bills? I'd need to trace where they'd really come from. This was a case now, my case, and I was going to solve it the same way I'd solved dozens of others. I called Tommy. "Chen, it's Santiago. I need a favor, and I need you not to ask questions yet." Okay? What's going on?" I need you to run a background check on someone. Patricia Santiago, DOB March 15, 1963. I need to see all financial activity for the last 6 months. Bank records, credit cards, everything. There was a pause. Maria, that's your mom. I know who it is. Can you do it or not? Another pause, longer this time. Tommy knew me well enough to hear the steel in my voice. Yeah, I can do it. It'll take a day or two. Maria, are you okay? I will be, I said. Call me when you have something. Over the next week, I conducted the most important investigation of my life. I tracked down the specialists Mom had supposedly seen. They had no record of her. I found the laboratory that had allegedly processed her tests. They'd never heard of her. I discovered that the medical bills had been printed on a home computer and sent from a P.O. box. And then Tommy came through with the financial records. Maria, I don't know what's going on, but your mom has been paying someone named Robert Vega $500 a month for the last 4 months. Guy's a disgraced physician's assistant who lost his license in 2019 for falsifying medical records. Robert Vega, the doctor friend who'd helped create this elaborate fraud. I need his address, I said. Already texted it to you. Maria, whatever you're doing, I'm doing my job. Finally. I found Robert Vega in a cramped apartment in Chelsea, looking exactly like what he was, a middle-aged failure nursing a beer at 2 p.m. When I showed him my badge, technically I was still on leave, but I was still a sworn officer, and told him I knew about his arrangement with Patricia Santiago, he folded like a cheap suit. Look, she approached me, okay? Said she needed some fake medical documents to scare her daughter into paying attention to her. I thought it was just like a family thing. I didn't know she was going to use it to make you quit your job. That's not on me. You created fraudulent medical records, I said flatly. You impersonated medical professionals. You participated in a scheme that cost me my career. It's absolutely on you. Now, are you going to cooperate and give me everything? Every document you created, every communication you had with my mother, every detail of this fraud? Or am I going to have to arrest you right now for medical fraud, conspiracy, and about 6 other charges I can think of off the top of my head? He cooperated. By the end of July, I had built an airtight case. Fake medical reports, financial transactions, witness testimony from Robert Vega, and my own recorded testimony about Mom's confession. I documented everything with the kind of meticulous detail that had made me a good detective. The question was, what was I going to do with it? I could press charges. Medical fraud was a serious crime. My mother could go to prison. Part of me, the angry, betrayed part, wanted that. Wanted her to face consequences for what she'd done. But another part of me, the part that remembered scraped knees and bedtime stories, the part that remembered a woman who'd worked herself to the bone to give me a decent childhood, hesitated. I sat in my car outside her apartment for a long time, the case file on the passenger seat next to me, trying to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. Finally, I went inside. Mom was in the kitchen, making tea. She looked up when I entered, her face guarded. Maria, I didn't expect you back. I moved out a week ago, remember? When I discovered you'd been lying to me for months. She flinched but said nothing. I put the case file on the kitchen table with a heavy thud. That's everything, I said. Every piece of evidence of what you did. The fake medical reports Robert Vega created for you. The financial transactions showing you paid him. His signed statement admitting to the fraud. Verification that none of the specialists you claim to see have any record of you. It's all there. She stared at the file like it was a snake. I could take this to the district attorney tomorrow, I continued. You'd be charged with medical fraud, conspiracy, possibly more. You'd probably go to prison. You'd definitely lose everything. Are you going to? Her voice was small. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks you deserve it for what you did to me. But part of me, I had to stop and take a breath. Part of me remembers that you're the woman who taught me to ride a bike, who sat up with me when I had nightmares, who believed I could be a cop when everyone else in the neighborhood said girls from Dorchester didn't become detectives. And I don't know how to reconcile that person with the one who would destroy my career out of pure selfishness. Mom's eyes were filling with tears, but I didn't know if they were real or another manipulation. I'm sorry, she whispered. Maria, I'm so sorry. I couldn't stand the thought of losing you. After your father left, you were all I had. And I saw you slipping away, getting more and more important, and I panicked. I know it was wrong. I know I hurt you. You didn't panic, Mom. You planned. You found Robert Vega. You created an elaborate scheme. You looked me in the eye every single day and lied to me while I gave up everything for you. That's not panic. That's cruelty. She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. Real or fake? I couldn't tell anymore. I couldn't trust anything about her. I'm not going to press charges, I said finally. Not because you deserve mercy, but because I deserve to move forward without being dragged through a trial about my own mother. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign a document admitting everything you did. You're going to compensate me for the financial losses I incurred moving in here and breaking my lease. And you're going to get therapy, real therapy, with a real therapist, because whatever made you think this was acceptable needs to be addressed. And if I do all that, then I'll keep this file locked away. But if you ever try to manipulate me again, or if I hear about you pulling something like this with anyone else, I'll take everything to the DA without a second thought. Are we clear? She nodded, still crying. We're clear. 3 days later, I walked back into the South Boston precinct for the first time in 4 months. It felt like coming home and facing a painful exam at the same time. The squad room fell silent when I entered. All eyes turned to me. Captain Rodriguez came out of his office. Detective Santiago, I wasn't expecting you back so soon. How's your mother? The question hung in the air. I could lie. Keep up the pretense that she'd been sick, that I'd been a dutiful daughter caring for my dying mother. It would be easier. But I'd had enough of lies. My mother's fine, sir. She was never sick. It was all fabricated. I'm here to request reinstatement to active duty. The silence in the squad room deepened. Rodriguez's eyebrows shot up. I see. Come to my office. Now. I spent the next hour explaining everything to him. Showed him some of the evidence I'd compiled, explained the fraud, admitted how thoroughly I'd been fooled. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and studied me for a long moment. Hell of a thing, he finally said. Yes, sir. You should have come to us when you first suspected something was wrong. I know. I was too close to it, too emotional. I handled it like a victim instead of a cop. But then you handled it exactly like a cop, he pointed out. Built a case, gathered evidence, got a confession. Thorough work, detective. Does that mean the task force position is filled? Detective Morrison is doing a good job with it. I'm not going to pull him from something he's succeeding at. My heart sank. But, Rodriguez continued, we have a position open in the Special Victims Unit. It's not leading a task force, but it's important work, challenging cases, and it's yours if you want it. It wasn't what I'd lost, wasn't what I'd sacrificed everything for, but it was something, a way back, a chance to be a cop again. I want it, I said. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. You're going to be playing catch-up for a while. And Santiago? Get yourself to the department psychologist. What you went through, being betrayed by family like that, it's traumatic. Deal with it properly before it affects your work. Yes, sir. Tommy was waiting for me when I left Rodriguez's office. Without a word, he pulled me into a hug. Welcome back, partner. I'm not in narcotics anymore. I'll be in SVU. Don't care. You're back. That's what matters. Over the next few months, I rebuilt my life. I found a new apartment in Jamaica Plain. Small, but mine. I threw myself into cases with the SVU, working with survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. It was hard work, emotionally draining in ways that narcotics investigations had never been, but it was also meaningful. I was helping people who'd been victimized by those they trusted, and maybe that resonated with me more than it would have before. I went to therapy, like Rodriguez had ordered, talked through the betrayal, the anger, the complicated grief of losing a mother who was still alive. Slowly, painfully, I started to heal. My mother and I maintained minimal contact. She went to therapy too, whether because she wanted to change or just to satisfy the terms of our agreement, I didn't know. Sometimes she'd call, and we'd have stiff, uncomfortable conversations. We were civil, careful, but the easy warmth that had existed between us before was gone, replaced by something formal and distant. Maybe one day, We'd find our way back to each other. Maybe we wouldn't. I'd stop trying to predict it. One evening in late November, almost 8 months after that horrible phone call that had upended my life, I was working late at my desk when Captain Rodriguez stopped by. "Santiago, got a minute?" "Sure, Captain. What's up?" He sat on the edge of my desk, looking uncharacteristically casual. "How are you settling into SVU?" "Good. Really good, actually. The work feels right. Your supervisor says you're doing excellent work. Cleared 4 cases in the last month alone. I'm just doing my job, sir. That's what good cops say." He paused, then continued. "The task force is expanding. We're adding a specialized unit focused on human trafficking and exploitation. It overlaps significantly with SVU work. I've been authorized to promote a detective sergeant to run it." My heart started beating faster. I didn't dare hope. "I'm not going to offer it to you," Rodriguez said bluntly. The disappointment was sharp, but not surprising. I'd lost my chance at something like that. "But I am going to tell you that applications are open, and I'd like to see your name on the list. You've proven you can build cases, lead investigations, and handle yourself under pressure. What happened with your mother? It would have broken some people. Instead, you turned it into an investigation and solved it. That's the kind of detective I want leading important units." "Sir, Think about it. You've got a week to apply. Now go home. It's late." I sat at my desk for a long time after he left, staring at my computer screen. Another chance. Not the same as the one I'd lost, but maybe better in some ways. A chance I'd have to earn on my own merit, with full knowledge of what I'd been through and what I was capable of. I thought about my mother, about the months I'd spent trapped in her apartment, watching what I thought was her slow death. The anger I'd felt, still felt sometimes, in quiet moments. The betrayal that had cut so deep, I wasn't sure I'd ever fully recover. But I also thought about the investigation I'd conducted. How I'd refused to simply accept my losses and move on. How I'd used every skill I'd learned as a cop to uncover the truth, to build a case, to reclaim my agency. How I'd chosen to handle it in a way that let me move forward without being consumed by revenge. That had been my choice. Not my mother's manipulation, not fate's cruelty, but my own decision about who I wanted to be. I opened my email and started drafting my application. The apartment in Jamaica Plain was quiet when I got home that night. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood at the window, looking out at the lights of Boston spread below me. Somewhere out there in Dorchester, my mother was probably watching TV in her apartment, alone with the consequences of her choices. I wondered if she regretted what she'd done, if she understood what she'd almost destroyed. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I'd spent 28 years believing that family loyalty meant sacrifice, that being a good daughter meant putting my mother's needs above my own dreams, that love required me to give up pieces of myself. My mother had taught me that, probably believing it was true. Maybe she'd learned it from her own mother, part of a long chain of women who'd been told their worth came from service, not achievement, who'd been taught to make themselves smaller so others could feel bigger. But she'd also taught me, without meaning to, that there's a difference between healthy sacrifice and toxic manipulation. That real love doesn't require you to destroy yourself. That sometimes the most important person you can protect and serve is yourself. My phone buzzed. A text from Tommy. "Heard Rodriguez talk to you about the new unit. You better apply or I'm writing your application myself." I smiled and typed back, "Already started it." 3 dots appeared as he typed a response. "That's my partner. Proud of you, Santiago." I set my phone down and returned to my laptop, continuing to work on my application. Outside, the November wind rattled the windows, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear sirens, the constant soundtrack of the city, the sound of cops going where they were needed, helping people who couldn't help themselves. That was who I was. Not my mother's keeper, not a victim of her manipulation, not someone who'd given up her dreams. I was Detective Maria Santiago of the Boston Police Department. I'd been knocked down, had everything I'd worked for nearly stolen from me by the person I'd trusted most. But I'd gotten back up. I'd fought back, and I was still standing. The application took me 3 hours to complete. When I finally hit submit at almost midnight, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Real, uncomplicated hope about my future. Whatever happened with the promotion, I knew I'd be okay. I'd survived the worst betrayal I could imagine and come through it stronger. I'd learned that resilience isn't about never falling. It's about choosing to stand back up, choosing to keep fighting for what you believe in, even when the people you love most try to take it away. I thought about calling my mother, telling her about the application, but I didn't. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me, about the career I was rebuilding, about the life I was creating on my own terms. Maybe someday, if she did the work in therapy and proved she'd really changed, we could rebuild our relationship too. But it would be different, healthier, based on mutual respect instead of obligation and guilt. Or maybe we wouldn't. Maybe some breaks can't be fully mended, and that would be okay too. I closed my laptop and finished my wine, feeling the tension of the day finally start to ease from my shoulders. Tomorrow, I'd go back to work, back to helping survivors of violence and exploitation, back to the job I loved. I'd keep building my cases, clearing my investigations, proving myself every single day. And when the decision about the promotion came through, whatever it was, I'd face it the same way I'd faced everything else this terrible, transformative year, with my eyes open, my spine straight, and my badge polished. Because I'm a cop, and cops don't quit. We endure, we persist, we serve and protect, even when the things we're protecting ourselves from are the people we love. My mother had tried to trap me, to keep me small and contained in a life she could control. Instead, she'd inadvertently taught me the most valuable lesson of my career. Trust your instincts, follow the evidence, and never stop fighting for the truth, no matter how much it costs or who you have to face down to find it. I went to bed that night with sirens still echoing through the city streets, thinking about all the cases waiting for me tomorrow, all the people who needed someone to believe them and fight for them. Thinking about the promotion I'd applied for, the chance to lead again, to make a real difference in fighting one of the worst crimes imaginable. And for the first time in 8 months, I slept soundly, without nightmares, without guilt, without the weight of someone else's manipulations crushing my dreams. I was free, and I was exactly where I needed to be.